I don't like roguelikes. Not because I think they're bad or because I think they're easy. Purely in anticlimactic fashion, I just can't find myself ever getting hooked on the gameplay loop. I'm sure you wanted a more controversial answer than that, and I've played a good amount of them for someone who isn't a fan. Risk of Rain, Gunfire Reborn, Enter the Gungeon, and Vampire Survivors being my most played. But nothing has ever hooked me long enough to want to continue and unlock the full potential of a roguelike to its fully realized state. And like I said, I'm in no way speaking on the quality of these games. I don't think the genre is bad by any means. I'm sure the hundreds of thousands of positive reviews that Hades and Binding of Isaac have received aren't for naught. And at some point as a gamer, I should probably get around to trying these games. But nothing in the genre has ever clicked for me. I've never been pulled back into one or even been drawn to buy one myself. It has always been at the will of another convincing me to shell out with hopes that this one will be different, especially if I am playing it with a close friend. But none have stuck. Obviously though, you clicked on this video for a reason, because it seems I have found an exception. This game does a lot of things right, and I'll bet that many of the things I'm about to praise it for can be applied to all of the other notable top roguelikes. So this isn't meant to be a comparison video or a video trying to tout this one as the best. Rather, it is an analysis on what drew me in specifically and what kept me playing past the minimal amount of time I usually put into this genre of games. Before that though, I want to try and give a deeper explanation as to why I don't like roguelikes generally. As I've said a few times already, they tend to be beautifully crafted games with varied and eye-catching art styles, tons of in-depth systems and mechanics, well thought out storylines, and the main thing that I think of when I imagine a roguelike is replayability. This word, replayability, is the issue though for me. I start to lose interest in these games after the first few rounds of play. It's hard for me to ever want to continue in these games because replaying them feels like it does nothing for me. Or at least that's how it's felt in the past. I'm not denying their immense replayability either. Hades has the Pact of Punishment, as well as different weapons to use, and games like Gunfire Reborn have harder difficulties to unlock as you progress, along with also having new characters and weapons that you unlock. On top of that, a talent tree to customize your build. Unfortunately though, somewhere in my brain, these systems felt like a waste of time to me. I felt like I had seen everything that I wanted to see and was ready to move on to the next game, which, even from my perspective, I can see it's a shame. I'm sure there is hours of content I've missed out on just within these games that I own, let alone the games I've never played. So don't hate me for this stance. I can see that I am the weirdo for feeling like this comparatively. Nobody has to like every genre of video game. Being a Souls-like enjoyer, I can understand if someone doesn't care for the gameplay loop, which can be arguably just as repetitive as roguelikes. However, even though I haven't been the biggest fan of roguelikes, the issue is that I want to be. I'm surrounded on all sides by people who like these games, and every roguelike in my library I purchased purely because someone else wanted me to play it with them, besides Mortal Sin and Vampire Survivors. So finding a roguelike I actually felt interested in was quite exciting because maybe this would be my first step into the genre. Enough about me though. Let's shift the focus and consider what about Mortal Sin captivated me into wanting to explore it further. The first trait about this game that I and many others noticed was its intense and otherworldly art style. It's jarring at first, but then you realize that it's supposed to look this way, and after that, I began to fall in love with it. It's gritty, grimy, and crunchy, and it matches the themes of the games, but in a way it's also beautiful, like a never-ending, distorted art piece painted with blood. In a genre that I've already praised for having tons of beautiful and uniquely designed games, this one still manages to separate itself from the crowd, as there isn't one other game that looks quite like it. Seeing all the different areas and the way the colors work together helps break up the monotony that roguelikes may possess with infinitely repeating random hallways, as there are always new things to see, and the art style helps with that. In regards to level design, it doesn't seem like anything special from what I can see, but it still doesn't feel boring. 3 drastically different systems of hallways with their own unique room designs, as well as an arena which you can participate in between for extra bonuses, and an in-game sequence that feels truly grand as you progress through it. I believe these 2 design aspects are underrated in how much they propel a game. Of course, within the community of roguelikes, they are praised often, but level design and art design in the wider gaming community go unrecognized as one of the main differences that can make or break a game, since they aren't necessarily the systems the player interacts with, rather it is just the case in which the player is encapsulated in. These designs tend to go over the more casual player's head, and I don't mean that in an elitist way. Just that it's possible for some people to not realize how much heavy lifting level design and art style can do. A system far more praised and on the forefront of many players' minds has to be the combat, and this game is no exception. The combat is brilliant, and upon each time I play a new class, I start to realize this more and more. At first, it just felt like a hack and slash with a whirlwind mechanic that could potentially trivialize the game if you got a proper weapon skill, but upon further plays, it was clear that this would not carry me, and the introduction of movesets and combos would be vital in making the later levels playable. Ways to activate the whirlwind early, power strikes, stuns based off of power strikes, better attacks based off of the prior 2 attacks. Fist weapons and katanas specifically have some great examples. With the katanas, you can engage a whirlwind based on your prior 3 moves, allowing for combos that lead to devastating sustained damage. With fist builds, as well as other builds, you can mix in kicks with the fists to lead to power hit combos that deal insane damage that is definitely required to take out the overwhelming amount of enemies that show up towards the latter half of runs. However, surprisingly, my first journey to the Maw of Sin, which is the technical end of a run, was under the Gladiator class. I say surprisingly because at this point, I believe my furthest runs were on the Berserking class and the Mage or the Vampire, and upon reading what the Gladiator class did, it didn't necessarily fill me with confidence. No weapon skills was the main part, as weapon skills in this game can do anything from send out extra blades of damage to a full invincibility whilst in a whirlwind. Not having access to any of these was scary, but as I continued with the class, I realized that it had insane damage output if you could proc its power attacks, and I was able to roll Bloodthirsty, Armor Mastery, and Weapon Mastery, as well as Resilience later in the run, which essentially made me do even more damage with the power strikes, heal off of any damage I dealt, as well as take less durability damage and less damage in general with Resilience, and the quality of armor I picked up was increased. This last part, having increased armor quality, was crucial, since I also didn't have access to armor skills on this character. I just had to rely on raw stats to propel me through the levels. And somehow this ended up being the first class I succeeded on, going from thinking that this class would lead to a failed run based off of my preconceived notions to my first completion, which shows something about this game that I think perfectly articulates the gameplay loop and style. There are so many classes with so many different starting benefits and detriments. Any of these are viable, and there are literally tons of different playstyles for any kind of player that may be finding themselves wanting to try this game. It adds a ton of replayability and allows for more brain usage, as no 2 classes play the same, so each class will have a field period where you try and find the best combos and the best roles for attributes. I can't stress enough how much the combat system does for this game in all of the regards I just mentioned. Atmospherically. It's a concept I like to think about when I play video games. Hell, I even made an entire video on the atmosphere of Dark Souls 2 if you want to check that out. The reason I like this word so much is because it encompasses many different aspects of a video game and tries to describe how all of them work together to create a feeling that is sort of unexplainable, which is funny because I'm going to try my hardest to explain it. I already touched on the art design and level design, obviously, but these two aspects definitely have a lot to do with atmosphere, so you may hear them crop up again. One aspect I haven't touched on yet, which is often a crucial piece of the puzzle for roguelikes, is the music. It is the music that is one of the main reasons why I can see people liking these games. Not necessarily because of the music choices themselves, as each game varies differently depending on the intended feeling, but it is the way that in roguelikes that are well made, the music allows for you to enter a flow state. It couples with all the other features to deliver an experience that allows for your synapses to be firing on all cylinders, especially in those crucial moments of combat. The music in this game is no slouch, from the somber tones of the main menu and hub area, to the unapologetic rock that bangs through the boss rooms. It just makes the game a blast to play and helps the game flow from room to room, and it pairs really well with metal music like you saw in the intro. The art design is crazy cool, specifically the colors and the designs of the rooms, with my favorite parts being the arenas, which progressively get more and more augmented as you progress through them, and the Maw of Sin, which is a giant hellscape leading to the final boss and an ascension of sorts, potentially mimicking godhood or devilhood even. Stylistically, you also have these small sorts of sermons before each run, preaching an idea about sin and your place in the world, with the only other form of information really given to you by this woman who gives quests and in return gives rewards, as well as tidbits of story. I haven't unlocked the entire story yet, but it's fun to see things that start to unfold and to get an idea for why I'm here and why this woman is standing here before me. And there could potentially be other NPCs that I haven't come across yet that also give story, but I'm still not as far in the game as some people probably have gotten. I'll leave the paragraphs I've unlocked so far here for anyone who wants to read through them themselves, but skip ahead to this time if you don't mind it much. I would go in depth and try and dissect what I've learned so far, but I don't think I'm fully knowledgeable enough on this game's story to do that in good faith. So maybe in the future, if I continue to find out more, I can make a video on it, as it is interesting so far. I haven't looked up any story videos either, or done any research into it, because I do want to try and experience it as it was intended to be experienced. But if you have played this game, you can let me know in the comments any interesting things you found out, and I'll definitely give them a check. So after all that though, what makes this game different? And why is this the first roguelike that I've considered to be one that I enjoy? The short answer is, I still don't know. The combat is crazy addicting, the visuals are stunning, the story keeps me wondering, and the way the game is organized is fairly simple. I'm sure you, the viewer, can name at least 5 other games just in this genre that you can say the exact same things that I just said about that game. But that's the beauty in it, I feel. We can converse about what we like about things and what we don't like, and everyone will always have slightly different answers comparatively. For example, besides roguelikes, I also don't like fighting games at all. I never play them, besides maybe the one-off anime game like Xenoverse, but a traditional one-on-one fighting game like Mortal Kombat or Tekken, I've never been one to want to play. However, maybe that will change in the future if I ever find one that clicks, just like how Mortal Sin has been the click I needed for roguelikes. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you like the genre, and what games out of the genre are your favorite. I'm sure once I post this video, I'm going to go and give Hades a try, since it seems like the obvious next choice, so who knows. Maybe you'll see another post about that. Either way, leave a comment telling me your thoughts on the matter, and thanks for watching.